Oh my, what's going on here? I'm glad you asked. I am making some deadly projectiles out of clay here. You mean the stuff that you make commemorative plates out of, or your kindergartner makes in class as like a pencil holder that you have to pretend to love? Well, I guess, yeah.
Wonderful, Slinger Sam. I'm glad to see you are finally doing some womanly work with your womanly weapon.
You realize this video is public, right? Like our wife could see what you're saying.
No. My wife did not watch my videos. She says they are far too nerdy and that I'm not as funny as I think I am.
Okay, all right, we're getting off track here. No, I'm serious. These have been used for an incredibly long time, even dating back to the Neolithic. Isn't that right, Homo hyliftus? Oh no, good. Yeah, I was worried you got a caveman to agree with you. Well, in that case, I guess there's only one thing to do. Compare different types of shot from the sling and rock out.
Slinger Sam, that was terrible. I'm going to put you in timeout so you can think about what you've done.
All right, yeah, I deserve that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerd and nerdettes. Today we are deep diving into the Sling, one of the oldest projectile weapons, but also we are diving into one of the first crafted types of ammo. During the course of this video, we're going to be focusing primarily on clay. I'm going to show you how to make some serviceable clay shot, and then we're going to have some real fun, test it against regular rock and lead, see how they perform with speed and penetration, power and sound as well. And we're just gonna have a lot of fun just breaking down some stuff and probably shattering some clay shots. So without further ado, let's sling into it. That was embarrassing. Go back to your timeout corner. Yeah, okay, sorry, I deserve that. As I've talked about before, the sling itself dates back to what we estimate 10,000 BC based on drawings and finding. It's hard to, of course, fully say because this is completely biodegradable naturally. But in 7,000 BC is when we start seeing remnants and remains of shaped shot made out of clay in the east, think modern day Iraq and Syria. And that really elevated the sling to a different level of lethality because you had better accuracy and consistency, and you could quickly and cheaply make good projectiles without having to find rocks, and you could carry a lot of them. Clay projectiles showed up in some really big historical battles. In ancient Egypt around 2000 to 1500 BC, slingers used molded clay against invaders like the Hittites, the Assyrians and the Babylonians, even the Sumerians. So just think of clay bullets just raining down during sieges or defensive fortifications. If you had a lot of people slinging these out at that velocity, it's going to be really intimidating and very devastating. And then from there, if you fast forward to the Bronze Age, there's a lot of remains of these found around fortifications in the Mediterranean. And by the Iron Age and Classical period, slingers were still key in a lot of different battles. By that time, of course, they were adopting different types of shot, but it is mentioned in Julius Caesar's campaign that they actually heated these to extreme heat and would throw them onto thatched roof, and that could help cause the roofs to catch on fire. And so that's one thing I want to do for a later date after I figure out a way to safely do it. But of course it's adaptable, and if you can use it as an incendiary to light different roofs on fire, it only needs one. If you have 100 slingers slinging and one of them gets through that's piping hot, that's really going to be a devastating tactic. And one very clear and noticeable standout was in 1200 BC when the Egyptians were invaded by the mysterious sea people. It was noted that they used a lot of clay projectiles to soften them up, and they were very instrumental in the battle. Slingers themselves acted as skirmishers, so basically they would move up, they would soften up the lines, they would retreat back. They were very mobile, wore very light armor. It was just a matter of trying to harass as much as possible and try to damage and break down. Now, the evolution from 10,000 to 7,000 BC when they started making molded clay was all about consistency and accuracy. It's very easy to make a consistent set of clay shot, and very hard to find good rocks. Even though they may look very similar, there may be a slight distribution of weight. They're not going to be as consistent. So clay was very good at making consistency. They were often done like this, where it tapered down a bit like a football. This works really well for the split pouch that I have as well, so it's a much easier fit for that. And so rocks are a little more finicky. You got to find just the right one. They're harder to find, they are heavier, and this you can quickly make a large amount of them in a short time and be ready for a lot of engagements. So clay shot was very prolific in the Bronze Age, but then as you get closer to the Classical Age and the Hellenistic period, what ends up happening is they start swapping these out for the glans or the lead shot, because that's going to be the king. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the shop, because I'm going to show you how to make some of these. So this is going to be a bit of a quick time build where I'm kind of going over how I'm going to put this together, also the clay that I'm using and the historical types that were used. Most of the types historically were earth clay, and as opposed to what a lot of people think of when you think of pottery and terracotta in particular, of the kiln, right? You need to get to 1800 degrees or something to harden it properly. But historically, most clay shot was not fire hardened. It didn't use the kiln. It was actually earth dried. The practice of doing this dates back to the late Neolithic period, based on the archaeological finds like Syria and Greece. The clay balls were hand molded into shapes and hardened through natural drying as opposed to the firing. Sun-dried projectiles continued to be used widely in ancient warfare and hunting, and it even included the Romans. Produced them by modeling clay, letting it dry in the shade or the sun for consistency in size, weight, and shape, and it improved accuracy overall. Kilns themselves for clays were invented around 8000 to 6000 BC in the Near East during the Neolithic period. So even though they had access to kilns, it was not utilized at that time. The reason being that it would make it brittle and it wouldn't do quite the same. So I may in the future try that where I kiln it and glaze it as well. But for this particular test, what we are going to be doing is just using earth dried clay or sun dried clay, as I feel that's going to be the most used historically. I'm going to be making some shots that are going to whistle, so I'm going to have whistling clay shots, and we're just going to go out there and just mash some stuff. Okay, so we're a few days later and here's some of the results I have. I have this one here. I made larger because I want to try to get some variable sizes. I kept them all around 3 ounces or so. This one's about 5.5. These here are the ones I'm trying out with the holes in it. So I tried a couple different configurations of the holes to see what I can do. You can hear as well, of course, they are very solid. So they are firm and they're hardened by the sun. And again, like I said, historically, it wasn't common to have that done. There were some instances that it was used for a specific type of engagement, but as a whole, this is faster and easier to do, especially if you're out on the go. You can just go and harden them that way. Okay, so here's how we're going to do the comparative distance testing. I have my starting point right here. I'm going to be at that brick the entire time. I'm going to start off with standard rock. So I got these and gathered them all. They're all about 5 to 6 ounces. So I'm going to keep that in that threshold for consistency of the rock weight. I have 2 different slings here, the shorter sling and the longer sling. And what I'm going to do first is see which one of those I can get going faster, and that'll be my barometer for the test. So I'm going to do a couple shots with this, and then with this, see which one has the highest feet per second or miles per hour, let's say. Then from there, we're going to start comparing it to other projectiles, clay, and lead. So without even having to go back and, let's say, count the seconds it took to get there, I could tell this one was much faster. So I'm going to take basically like a few more shots with this, kind of create an average for speed with the rock. And then from there, we're going to move on to the clay. Next up, we have the clay shot. So if you saw in the earlier portion of the video how I built them and everything, you have an understanding of that. If you skip through it, it's clay shot, whatever. You guys skip everything, I don't care. So anyways, this is what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna do speed for these, take a few scatterings or a few shots of this. It's a different weight, so this is about 3 to 3.5 ounces on average. It is smaller than the rock, but distributed well. There's just less mass to it, so I do feel like I'll be able to get these moving pretty quickly, but we'll go ahead and test and see how that goes. And so lastly, we have the lead shot. Now, I have to use this sling with it because it has a hammock. This one here broke. Unfortunately, I can't use it anymore because it's too short, so I got to get a new one. And it does not work with the split pouch. As you can see, that would slip right out. So unfortunately, this is going to really kind of skew the results because it's a different type of sling. You hold it a bit differently as well. I really don't want to try to do one of these because these tend to bury in there. So wherever this lands, that's just where it's going to go, even if it's not a great shot. And then I'm going to kind of test and see, go to the drawing board, try and measure out the speed, and then we're going to go for some power shots. So going over the results of the speed test, it's probably the least accurate way possible. I don't have a chronometer to necessarily track that. So what I did was I had my set distance at 25 yards. I measured out the amount of frames it took from the release to where it hit the wood. And so from there, I kind of extrapolated out the feet per second or the miles per hour. And so what I found, of course, is that you'd think it's counterintuitive, but the larger sling is actually slower because it's so thick, right? Fast slings, generally the narrower it is, the faster you can rotate it around to get a higher speed. So that was slower. Once I got to this one with the rock, I had pretty good consistent speed. And then when I went to the clay as well, that kind of was the same speed as the rock. So that kind of matched it. I didn't get it much faster. I can definitely tell with these as well, they're all the same shape and same size, so it's easier to be consistent with grouping. If I practiced with these more, I hadn't used them before, so I think that my weight distribution is a little off with the way I threw it, but it was still there. And then of course the lead is going to be the fastest because it is the densest, it's small, it's a quick package, it can go really quickly. So as far as speed goes, clay and rock, very similar. Lead is superior. So to test power, I'm going to start first at the plywood. So of course we have plywood and particle board. So plywood I think is a better determinator of strength. How it does, I think it'll be really cool to see how the clay does. Rock I think will do really well. We're going to take close-up shots of that, see how much it's able to punch through that wood to kind of determine which one has the most penetrating power, let's say. So the most powerful shots with that were here and here. This one was able to punch in and not go all the way through, so it cracked through all the layers, but it did not penetrate all the way through the wood. So 1, 2, and I think this one was one as well. So those were good shots. I think it showed that this has some good force and some power to it. Against this plywood, cracking through it and breaking it down a little bit. Obviously, it'd be much easier to do than like that thicker pine wood I had out here for the ship hull last video. Next up, we have the clay shots. You can see the residuals of one that cracked against it. These are like, let's say, dry hardened without a kiln. So I just dried them as best I could in an oven and then outside to try to harden them as much as possible. I want to see if I can punch through this at all. So there's a good one right here, and that indented the wood a bit, not a substantial amount, but it's enough to feel that it hit it and didn't completely just blow up and fracture. It was able to disperse some of that energy into the wood there. I had another one down here. This one right here hit on the corner, so that was just kind of a bad spot. It just broke apart there. Say it did okay, not amazing, kind of what I expected it would do against plywood. And then lastly, of course, we have our lead shot. I'm still using the fishing weights. I don't want to get rid of these two, but I also really don't like to use it too much because it tends to blow through a lot of things, get stuck in the head. I don't like it out in the field as much as possible. So I'm probably going to do one for the lead shot just to kind of show, I guess you could say, the superiority of I probably know what it's going to do. And so that was this one right here. You can see that made it all the way through into the other side, got stuck in the hay bale. I'll have to try to find and dig that out later, which is why I don't like to, use the lead too much. Again, that just easily shows lead is going to be vastly superior for range, for speed, and for penetration, because it's just a dense projectile moving real quick. And then what we are going to do last is the particle board, because I want to give the clay shot a chance to punch through something. I think if there's anything that's going to make it through, it's this. So again, we're going to start with the rock. I'm not going to use lead on this one because it's going to be pretty obvious what happens, and we'll see if we can blow through it with some rocks. So the most obvious one clearly first is this one here that punched through and into the hardwood behind it. There's a couple more around here. I'm gonna have to watch it back again on slow motion to see exactly where those hit, because I've been doing a lot of these things. So they made it through pretty well. There was no problem at all. It made it through with relative ease. So I'm curious to see next up how the clay shot's gonna do. So we had a couple good ones here. This one you can see it dented it in, which isn't, a huge deal. This one here was able to punch in and through it quite a bit. And this one here was the best one. That was able to go all the way through. It bounced back out, but those were enough to punch through the wood. So you can see that even though they do tend to explode upon impact against harder surfaces, they still have enough energy and momentum to carry through and actually do damage to something that's a harder substance. So if that hit anything like your skull or bones or skin or flesh, it would still be incredibly dangerous, especially if you hardened it more and it would fragment upon impact instead of like powder. And then to finish off the penetration test, I want to try this here. These are denser, heavy. This is about 5.5 ounces. This is about 4 ounces as well. So I want to try and see with these larger ones if I can get that through, if it's going to have a similar impact to the rock. So that was not bad. That was right here. You can see it was already kind of cracked, but that pushed through and broke there. This is my first time, like I said, working seriously with clay. So I'm going to try different types of clay probably later at a different time. Maybe I'll try with the kiln and glazing it to see what happens there. But overall, still I'm not able to really get through cleanly with the way that I've built it currently. And unfortunately, distance is kind of hard for me to test out here. I don't have as much range as I would like, so it's hard to track where they land also. But what I want to do is I'm going to do which one sounds the scariest. So it doesn't always pick it up super well. Before I kind of had no mics on. There's no background noise because you can kind of hear it better that way. But I want to set one up down there with a mic, see if you can pick that up and if you can hear it coming, which one sounds a bit more intimidating, let's say. The rock and the clay were pretty similar in pitch and tone from what I can tell just listening back. I have my whistling clay here. I'm going to do a couple different things. One, I'm going to set up a mic down there to see if I can pick that up. Then I'm going to put the camera down there without the mic. There's going to be more background and feedback, but it does tend to pick up that noise a bit better. So we're going to try this out now, see what kind of pitch I can get out of these, and I'm probably just going to throw them pretty deep because I want to try and see if I can pick that up as it goes by. So I can hear the whistle out here, but I think there's noise canceling on these mics. So I'm going to take the mics off, put the camera down there, and see if I can pick it up that way. So that angle worked a lot better. You can definitely tell there is a different hissing or whizzing noise with that. I feel there's probably a better way to do it. I did a couple different angles, different variations of holes, but it's still just like a slight whistle. So I think I probably could improve upon that as well. Comparatively, if you've seen before, there I did the lead shot in the past. I was talking to Brandon too about the Romans would actually drill holes in the lead shot because it would whistle. And so I've done that with some fishing lead. You just sell the fishing weights, those are about 3 ounces.
Holes drilled specifically so it made more noise, just like totally just suppression.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Suppressive fire.
Video, I think that the lead had a bit of a better noise. That's just because of the increased velocity. I think as it's traveling faster, it's probably grabbing more of the air, making a better whistling noise. Both would be great for their intended purposes, psychological warfare. Let's say keeping people pinned in position. So the whizzing over their head is going to have you duck down. It's just a natural instinctual thing. So it's easy to make, and I'll try some variations down the road, but that was good. It worked overall well. Well, everybody, thank you for taking the time to hang out with me and put up with my silliness. If you took some time out of your day to watch, I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. As with all of my things, I have no ego about this. If I messed up something, if I did something wrong, let me know. I'll try to correct it next time. I'm learning as I have this channel. Experts are telling me about different things that I'm not familiar with, especially with the way things are constructed. As a teaser for the next thing that's going on, I am actually working on building a historically accurate Scottish targe out of oak using leather and using animal hide. So that's gonna be the fun one that I'm working on next. I'm gonna test that against the war bow. And also, it may surprise some of you to hear the question I get asked the most is not how do you train for a heavy war bow or how to use a sling. It's what is your diet and fitness routine, which is why I've come together with some people to put together a fun PDF going over everything that I do. Linked in that document, as well as a lot of the past videos I've done on fitness. I try to do that as minimally as possible because I really don't enjoy it, but a lot of people do ask. So that's gonna be pinned down in the description and the top comment below. So if you guys are curious, feel free to follow that link and it'll take you to everything that I have, just my amateur, advice. I'm not a fitness guy in any way. So if you guys are interested in that, check that out. That way I don't have to keep making stupid fitness videos over and over and over. But looking forward to this next one. Build's gonna take a little bit of time, as they all do. Hope you guys have an amazing day, and thanks again for putting up with, whatever it is this channel is.